Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Amelie Moran podcast. We are in season 2 officially right now, and I'm so excited about this episode. I have so much to get through, there's so much to say because today we are going to be talking about Cartagena in Colombia. I have decided to put on, I guess, the funkiest shirt I own at the moment. I wanted to try and make this feel a bit funkier, a bit more vibrant in any way that I could, because to be honest, it's a very grey day here in Melbourne right now, and all my furniture is pretty much grey, and I feel like we needed a bit of a colour boost because Cartagena is one of the most vibrant places. We went on the entire trip, and I have so much to say. I'm just so excited. But anyway, Sam and I actually almost did not make it to Colombia. I think that's also why I'm so excited to talk about it, because it was quite a stressful time trying to get there from Panama, which I'm going to go through in this episode. I have told this story before on the podcast, but it was quite a long time ago. So I feel like any of you new listeners, you just might want to hear it because it was very, very eventful and very, very stressful. And in hindsight, incredibly funny, to be honest. But obviously, I also want you to know why Cartagena holds such a special place in my heart. There is so many good things to say about it, and I am very, very excited. So let's just get on with it. So this story starts actually back in Panama City, sitting in our hostel. That if you haven't watched the Panama episode, go and watch it. I talk about how dodgy our hostel was and the area that we were in and how stressful that all was in itself. We were in a hostel room and we're searching up our flight to Colombia, just double checking the airport's correct, where we need to go, what time, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly I'm seeing all these forums, all these TikToks are coming up saying that we need to buy an outgoing ticket from Colombia to somewhere else before we can enter Colombia. I have not seen this advertised anywhere on any backpacker sort of itinerary, any tips and tricks for Colombia. So I'm thinking, what is this person talking about? What is going on? I've seen people talk about this when you're going to Asia, because I know a lot of Asian countries want you to have, I think it's called an ongoing travel document or like an outgoing travel document, something like that, just to prove that you're not going to overstay your welcome, which kind of makes sense. Like, I'm kind of getting it. I do understand why they're asking this of you. At the same time, not ideal when you're backpacking, because we had no clue how long we were going to be in Colombia for. We had no itinerary. We didn't even know where we were going after Cartagena. The only reason we were going to Cartagena was to meet some friends that were coming to see us. So really not an ideal situation. I'm really trying to research how legit this all is, because we obviously don't have a flight book and we have no idea when we'd leave Colombia. And I guess also we didn't want to book a flight just for the sake of it. They were also very expensive to fly out of Colombia, and we wanted to make sure that we booked that on a day that suited us. We didn't want to just pick any random date. We might have absolutely loved Colombia and wanted to stay for 2 months. We might have absolutely hated it and wanted to stay for 3 days. Like, we had no clue. So this whole onward going travel thing, I just never heard of it, and it was a proper shock to the system, because we're in our hotel room the night before our flight, and I'm looking up all these different websites, doing my research, seeing where I can get this sort of fake boarding pass, or like, I think it's a system where they reserve this plane seat for you, but you never take it. I don't know too much about it. I don't know how much I'm allowed to actually tell people about it, but it's pretty well known if you're going through Asia. But I'd never heard of this. And so I'm thinking that these are all really dodgy websites. And I guess you just don't know until you get to that immigration part, until you get to the check-in desk at the airport. Like, are they going to accept that? Are they going to tell me, no, that's not valid? Are they going to tell me that the flight isn't even real? Like, there were just so many barriers to it, and I was extremely, extremely paranoid. Sam then comes up with this idea to book a bus out of Colombia going to Venezuela, because the friends that we were meeting are from Venezuela. They were flying in from Venezuela. So I guess the thought process was, if we get stopped at immigration or at the border or whatever, we have legit Spanish speaking people who live in Venezuela that can vouch for us coming to see them, even though that was not the plan at the time and we had no intention of going to Venezuela. So Sam goes onto this random website where I guess he's like researching bus tickets. I don't really know, because I think also it's quite a strange journey that we were trying to do. The town where our friend lives in Venezuela is not one that people typically travel to as like a tourist destination or like a backpacker destination. So I think it looked like quite a strange trip for us to do, which already was going to bring questions and people weren't going to be sure what we were trying to do. But moving forward, we get to the airport. If anything, we just figured that if they pulled us up on this bus ticket, then we could just call our friend who was traveling to Colombia at the time. So actually she would not have answered her phone at all. But we just figured that if they pulled us up on it, then we could just say we were going to get a bus to the border and she's going to pick us up. And we could pretend we had some text from her or something. Like, we were figuring out this whole complex plan because I was extremely paranoid. I do not want to get messed up with Colombian immigration or police or anything like that. I've not heard that they're the nicest and most understanding. But anyway, we get to the airport, Panama City, and we go to the check-in desk. And this is where it all starts. And I want to cry. On the way to the airport, I had realized that actually it's not about having an ongoing ticket just out of the country. You have to have a flight booked. So you could have a bus booked, but they would not accept that. I get to the desk and I stay silent. So we go up to the check-in desk. They ask us for our flight out of Colombia. This is when my toes are cringing, okay? I am just wanting the world to swallow me up. The man who is checking us in says that he can't accept the bus ticket that Sam has booked. Because actually, I may not have mentioned this before, it was not an actual bus ticket that we had booked. Sam had actually gone onto this website to buy a bus ticket, and just before checking out and putting in all your credit card details or payment details or whatever, he'd just taken a screenshot of it. So we had a booking number, we had a booking reference. We did not pay for these tickets. This is a random screenshot. It's kind of the equivalent of going on Google Maps and saying, how do I get from A to B by car? And then taking a screenshot and going, this is my ticket. And I'm sitting there going, they're not going to be dumb enough to fall for that. Like, there's just no way that they're going to fall for that, because I don't even believe it. I didn't even realize. I think we both just sort of assumed it was a ticket, but I think we also knew, like, let's just see if we can get away with it, because we cannot pay for another flight. So we're doing the best with what we've got. The guy at the desk calls over his manager, okay? And she looks like a no bullshit woman. Like, she looked scary. And I think also throughout this whole situation, they don't speak English very well. We are trying to argue with people, or at least reason with people that do not speak the same language as us. My Spanish is like tangible. Like, I'm not the best at speaking it. I can understand it a lot better. But it was very, very difficult to communicate some of this because we're just not understanding each other at all. Then we realized that we could show them our flight to Australia because we had that booked before we even left for Mexico. So I show them our ticket to Australia from Chile, and I'm trying to explain, I know it's not from Colombia, but I don't want to stay in Colombia because I have this flight booked. But at the time it was 3-4 months away. It was quite a long while away, and so they couldn't accept it. The manager said, no, this is not valid because it doesn't prove that you're going to leave Colombia. Which also makes me laugh, because just because I book a flight out of Colombia doesn't mean I'm gonna leave. Like, I could miss my flight, or I could just not get on the flight. It's just like, there were so many things that were just so wrong with this situation, and it made zero sense to us. Anyway, so the manager is arguing back and forth with Sam, and the manager is having none of it. I mean, she is arguing back and forth. Then she says, I can call Colombian immigration and ask them if you'll be okay to land and stay in Colombia. Sam is then proceeding to say things like, yeah, call them, go for it. Why not? Yeah, go for it. Sounds good. I am almost crying. I am so ready to give up. I'm ready to just say, let's just book a flight. I literally don't care at this point. Like, I will just spend the money. It doesn't matter. I don't want to get in trouble with Colombian immigration. What the hell do you mean Colombian immigration? Like, so this woman talks to them on the phone. Sam and I are waiting, and it's quite awkward because the guy who originally tried to check us in just stands at his desk and he does not move forward with any new customers. We've been pushed off to the side because they're trying to deal with us, I guess. But this guy just sort of hangs around, and it's very awkward. And then the manager comes back and she says, okay, so I've spoken to Colombian immigration. They have flagged your passports, they have flagged you guys, and when you land, they might interrogate you, they might take you in for questioning, but they'll decide when you land if you can be let in, or something along the lines of they've said it's fine, but they'll need to double check, or we need to double check before you go through customs on the other side. It was some sort of like ambiguous, are we going to be accepted or not? Like, what is going on? Also, the fact that you're using words like we flagged you terrified me. Like, what do you mean you flagged us? Like, to Colombian immigration. But the flight was quick and easy, blah, blah, blah. It was like an hour flight, very, very chilled. I mean, the flight itself was chilled. I was not chilled. And you've heard me talk about this before on the podcast, but I hate customs. I have such an issue with it and I don't know why. But anyway, we get to customs and we are told to go see a customs officer. This is the part where I'm feeling like they're going to go, okay, you need to come with us. This woman did not care who the fuck we were. She doesn't escort us off. She doesn't take our passports. She's not going to interrogate us. She didn't even ask us about the vaccination that we specifically had to get to go into Colombia. Like, she didn't ask us any questions. She just stamped our passports and off we friggin' went. And I could not believe stress that those people in Panama had put us under. But she just could care less. And we just waltzed into Colombia. And it was honestly the best feeling. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And Sam is obviously sauntering around going, yeah, obviously, like, we had no reason to be flagged. There's no way she actually called Colombian immigration. And suddenly I'm thinking, oh my God, like, yeah, there's no, why was she calling it like this? Okay, so they were just trying to scare us, basically. There was no reason to be stressed out at all. And we slightly finessed the system. So I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that, but there you go. My first impression of Cartagena was that it absolutely stole my heart. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so stunning. Sam and I have always said that it is somewhere that we would 1,000% go back to for a holiday. I will say it's more of a touristy vibe. Like, people do go on holiday there. I wouldn't say it's typically a backpacker destination. People do backpack there, but I would say it's on the more touristy side. It's very, very popular, we realise. You've got colourful streets everywhere. You've got music. You've even got dancers in the street every hour of the day. And the sun is roasting. I mean, it's honestly just beautiful. It also kind of looks like it was designed specifically for people to take their Instagram photos here, if that makes sense. Like, every street is so photogenic. Every single, like, even alleyways, all the roads with all the shops, like, it's absolutely insane. And it's really sweet because it feels almost a bit European because there's cobbled streets and the roads are so narrow. Like, you can only fit one car down each one. Every road is kind of one way. There's no way you can fit two cars. And it just feels very intimate, very nice. Like, you can always hear a party going on and just felt very communal. I spoke about this in the previous episode on the podcast, that Colombia just felt very much community based. Everybody's so welcoming, everybody's so lovely. And I think that was our first impression of the country. For somewhere like this, I feel like my only regret, and maybe a regret for the whole trip, is that I didn't really bring any nice clothes. I just brought very basic, like, t-shirts, vests. I didn't even bring denim shorts. Like, I just had material shorts. They were just sort of ones you'd wear for like hiking and stuff, but because it was so hot, that was what I resorted to wearing. But I really wish I'd brought like a nice dress or a nice top or something, because places like this where you want to dress up a little bit more and you want to look a bit nicer, I was sort of improvising with some linen trousers and a white vest top, which is not an issue at all. I'm backpacking. I don't really care what I look like, in all honesty, but I just think for places like this where it's very nice and everything's really pretty, you kind of want to feel good as well. And I feel like there were times in this specific place where I just didn't, and it goes for other places as well. I just didn't have anything to sort of dress me up and make me kind of like separate the day to night. Like, we've spent the day exploring, okay, now I want to dress up a bit and look a bit nicer. I didn't really have anything like that. So that is one tip I would say, is do bring your nice outfits. I wouldn't say fill your bag with them. Don't bring like 5 dresses that you care about. but definitely something to just make you feel a bit better. I think it really gives you a boost when you feel good about yourself. We stayed in the old town, which I think is a bit more expensive, I'll assume. You can stay outside of the old town, but I would say you're quite far away from everything. Everything we did was in this old town kind of circle, if you will. So I feel like it's a much better option to do that. It's definitely worth it because it is beautiful and you've got everything next to you, restaurants, shops, supermarket, like everything. And one thing that you will hear me rave about when talking about Colombia specifically is the food, because the food is absolutely unreal. Whilst we were in Cartagena, we were introduced to it and we got to try things like arepas and so many seafood platters. They had the best seafood there. It was honestly unreal. We even got to try yuca, which I think is plantain, but a different version of plantain. I can't remember specifically what it is, but it's kind of like potatoy ish. And you can have it sweet or salt, and it's so good. You can even get yuca crisps and plantain crisps, which oh, absolutely amazing. Sam really liked the salt version crisps. I really like the sugar version. So they were a really, really good snack as well. But it was probably the first time where our palates were completely open to a different culture of food. They also have a place in Colombia, and this is slightly embarrassing, called Mr. Bono. Mr. Bono is maybe the equivalent of Greg's in the UK. I would say it's kind of on par. It's a place where you can get coffee and pastries, sweet or savory. I genuinely think I put on quite a bit of weight after being in Cartagena because it was absolutely unreal, this place. Mr. Bono is, I want to say it's like cheap shit. It's not cheap shit. I'm not really selling it, but it really was absolutely delicious. Their signature dish was a Mr. Bono, which was Parmesan kind of cheese roll, basically. You just had that and it was warmed up. It had like Parmesan dusting on it as well. Oh, it was amazing. Tried it on the first day, ended up going back 5 days in a row. So I probably put on quite a bit of weight after being in Cartagena because everything they make is dough and just like full fat and just so much sugar. But it was absolutely incredible. And a really good thing I think to do in Cartagena is to go down to the harbour and get some food and just have a cocktail or have a glass of wine or whatever you want and just admiring the sea and all the boats, because there was this place on the harbour where they had all these different food trucks. I would say maybe like 5 or 6, all completely different types of food. And you would just order from one of the girls that was walking around and they would bring you your food. And it was great because as a group, it meant that everybody could get what they wanted. Someone could get a pizza, someone could get, I don't know, seafood pasta, somebody could get an arepa. Like everybody could do whatever they wanted. And the sunset view from there was absolutely stunning. There are always great spots to see the sunset in Cartagena and also just admiring the sea. I think it's absolutely stunning. And in the same breath, apparently Cartagena has beaches. I did know that when we went, and we were very aware of it, but they were quite far away from the old town. You had to get a cab, and we'd heard that they weren't that great. So I would recommend, if you want to go to the beach whilst you're in Cartagena, is to do one of these day trip things. You basically, our friends did it, and you get on a boat and you travel for X amount of time. You go off to this island and they will have a sort of beach club spa thing, and you can lounge by the pool or you can go in the sea or you can just have drinks all day, whatever you want. And I think if that's the kind of vibe that you're on, I think those are better. They're a lot more expensive, which is why Sam and I didn't do it, because our budget didn't stretch to that. But it is something I think sounds really cool. But okay, let's do the Amelie Moran ranking system. So I have said food and drink, 8 out of 10. I could go on about this forever. The food and drink is just unreal. And I will say, actually, Cartagena is such a good place to party. I think the bars have the best atmosphere, best vibe. I obviously don't drink now, but I did drink when we were traveling and it was just so much fun. It's not even expensive to have a drink. And they have all these rooftop bars where they turn into like sort of disco rooms, I guess. Like they'll bring a ball down or like turn on the disco ball kind of thing. And everybody was just having such a nice time. And I think it's so nice. And I think it's really fun if you're with a group of people, especially, and you all just go out, you pick a rooftop bar. There's so many to choose from. You're going to have a great view and also a great time. Nightlife, 9 out of 10. I've just explained it. History and culture, 9 out of 10. So much history in Cartagena and so much culture. The people that would dance every day without fail, I was obsessed with them. We absolutely loved it. You could go into the town centre and watching these people dance, and you could do it for hours. And the best part is they have people walking around that have coolers on wheels, and they'll just come and you just buy a beer for £1 or whatever it is. And you can just sit and watch these guys dance, and they do it for hours in the heat, and it's absolutely insane. And they're wearing the most gorgeous costumes, and oh my God, I'm just looking at them like, I don't understand. I can't even walk in this heat. Like, the fact that you are dancing is so mental. Accessibility and English level, I've said 7 out of 10. I don't remember having massive issues with speaking English. I remember the place that we stayed spoke pretty good English. We also were there with friends who spoke Spanish, so that kind of made it easier for us, I guess. But I would say because of how touristy Cartagena is in general, I think English, you'll be fine. Accessibility, it's okay. I would say cabs might be the way to get about. I'm not 100%, but if you are in the old town or near the old town, you can walk absolutely everywhere and it's completely fine. Safety, 9 out of 10. I feel like Cartagena was pretty safe. I mean, there were a few dodgy moments that we saw. There were a few things where we were a bit like, oh, is that okay? But I think because it's so populated and because there's so many people around, I didn't really feel unsafe at all. I actually felt like it was probably one of the safer places. People will party until 6, 7, 8 a.m. So even if I was out on the street on my own, there's still people around. There's loads of bouncers everywhere, lots of security people. So I personally felt like it was fine. Expenses, I've written 5 out of 10 because I think part of me wants to say it was quite expensive, but I think it was just expensive for the backpacker budget that we had because of where we stayed. But we did it so we could stay near our friends, and obviously we wanted to be close to them. We wanted to be able to hang out with them as much as possible. So I think it's kind of expensive, but at the same time, it's Colombia. It's really not that expensive. I think also it's touristy, so aspects of it will be quite overpriced. But I will say you can definitely go way over budget if you're going out all the time, because we may have. And overall, I'm giving Cartagena 8 out of 10. It's such a good start to Colombia, and this isn't even the best place in Colombia for me. It's not even my absolute favorite place, but this was genuinely one of the best places, and I would go back in a heartbeat. Absolutely loved it. I don't think there's anything that I would do differently for Cartagena. I feel like we did it very well, and we stayed within our budget where we could, and I think we stayed in a place that had great access to everything, so we weren't stressing about how we're going to buy food or have access to food or do anything in the evenings. And I think we were very, very lucky with that. So I don't actually think there's anything I would do differently. Maybe not try and get threatened to be deported before even getting into the country. Maybe that. I don't know. There's nothing I would do over. And I guess my biggest tip for you if you're going is, I know I say this quite a lot, but regardless of your skin type, SPF is going to be your lifesaver. The sun is very strong there. It's very, very hot. Did get slightly burnt. Doesn't matter. We move on. You do not want to be walking around burnt because the sun does not go away there. So you can't really hide from it. But okay, that is my Cartagena chaos. I really hope that this has inspired you to book a trip to Colombia. It honestly is just the best place. And if not, I hope I've made you giggle with my absolutely embarrassing story about getting caught up with Colombian immigration. If you enjoyed this, share it, review it, comment down below, or send me a DM because I want to hear your travel disasters. I want to see what has been going on when everybody's been traveling around the world. Don't forget to subscribe and like this episode, and I will see you next week. Bye!